Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Test, Optimize, and Scale. Sitting here with Jeff Carlton, business coach, FocalPoint, working with high volumes of entrepreneurs towards their success. Off the motto, happy people, higher profits, and healthy balance. So excited about the discussion. I know a lot of you are going to be taking notes as we get into the details here. But Jeff, thanks for taking the time to be on the pod.
No, hey, I owed you one because you were on mine last week, so I really appreciate the opportunity.
That's right. That's right. How to blast, how to take it to this stage, and looking forward to learning more about you through the process. Thought we could begin with your background to familiarize listeners, viewers with who you are and how you started working with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, so it's not what you would expect. I started out wanting to be an astronaut. It was like, okay, I'm going to get to NASA. How do you get to NASA? You become a military pilot and you go to test pilot school. So I did manage to become a military pilot. Uh, got a ROTC scholarship through the Marine Corps. Ended up getting commissioned by the Navy because they wanted me to fly submarines. And I managed to pull down orders to Pensacola, flew F-18s for almost 11 years. Then transitioned after a 3-year NATO exchange tour in Canada, got to know the Montana Air National Guard, and came to the Air Force. Served another 20 years with the U.S. Air Force, flying F-16s and F-15s, and Inspector General Strategic Planning at Joint Force Headquarters, and retired as a Vice Wing Commander. Made it a year in retirement, and realized I was really missing the leadership and the personal satisfaction of seeing success in projects and success in others. And business coaching was a great fit. So business coaching, personal performance coaching for individuals, executive coaching for people. We spend the first half of our careers cutting each other's throats, trying to get ahead and get that promotion, right? That's the mindset. That's the ugly way to say it. I'll just rip the Band-Aid off. What we are slow to recognize often in the second half of our career is we should be training our replacement and growing the people underneath us. And so it's incredibly important to at the top end of middle management starting to instill that leadership mindset as opposed to I want to get the next promotion and be the next top dog. And that's what makes a synergistic organization really work well, is when all the pieces are fitting together seamlessly. And that's what's missing from a lot of places. And then there's a lot of people that just need help. They're really great in the trades. They're really great at their craft. They're good with their hands, but not necessarily with their head because they were never trained or raised in the business. They didn't have a mentor. And that's what I try and bring to the table now.
Being that mentor, getting them to work with their heads, not just their hands. You mentioned some of the focus being placed on, just growth or hey, my own career or whatever. When really it's leadership and training your replacement. I love the concept of personal performance because we talk so much about revenue, valuations, that the personal side can often be ignored when that can be the biggest attribute to a successful leader. What type of obstacles do you typically overcome with founders that you work with around personal performance and setting them up for larger scale success as a result?
A lot of times it's as simple as communication. And that, wow, I mean, in the military, that was huge. When you look at the generational gaps of how we communicate, and then I also do a lot. I mean, the first thing I do with anybody that I work with is we run a DISC profile, which is a behavioral communication style. of how they like to communicate and how they like to receive information. We have saying it's probably all over LinkedIn out there. It's not what you say or how you say it; it's how you're heard. Um, that's really important. And there was a discussion I got into about 15 years ago, um, where we had this older generation is like, if you're not here, if you're not 10 minutes early, you're 15 minutes late. Um, I can't get these kids to talk to me. And I'm like, well, yeah, they communicate on text message now. Um, the, you know, so just learning how different people can communicate better with each other, that's another thing that helps keep an organization a little more seamless. And the other element of that, I think, is if leadership is not communicating their vision and what they expect to happen in a digestible format, then the results are all the predictable.
That's a good way to put it. And it goes back to that mentoring and, like you said, speaking the vision, being able to get others on board with that. And standard operating procedures, have them working off systems, but also showing them, this is how we communicate internally. This is what that looks like externally. And like you said, it's not what you said or how you said it, although those are important things to look at. It's
It goes
ultimately how
into
you're
it.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are the ingredients, but at the end state is
Yeah.
was the message received and did it resonate?
Mm-hmm.
And so what you say and how you say it is going to determine how you're heard.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we run disc profiles on people, is to make sure that the way it's being communicated, like I'll use fatherhood. I raised two girls. Um, they won't answer their phone. They won't answer a text message. But if I Snapchat them, I have a response in 15 seconds, dude.
I haven't heard that with parenting. It's all about the snaps. I like that. And that goes into the generational aspect. We look at it all the time for marketing and, build a target audience persona, determine where they go online, how they communicate online, and then craft messaging that's going to resonate with them. Give a call to action, a marketing funnel for them to go through
Right.
that's consistent with other brands that they engage with. And it is wild. I mean, we see it in the workplace on the generational side of things, even with what apps we consume and the types of content, the TikTok conversation and how some team members don't really seem to mind too much. Others seem devastated that their favorite app where they spend, hours a day could be gone, and how we message them, how we communicate with them, how we relate the material varies drastically, especially if I start talking about, my partners, our general counsel. You're talking about printed documents and staples and different materials. It's wild, the contrast from one generation to the next, and to really understand that with your communications so that you can be effective.
Yeah, I 100%. I mean, you nailed it. And it is funny is that how much time do we spend on market research of, okay, where's my ideal client live? Are they streaming? Are they on radio? Are they on TV? I had somebody, there was a discussion about whether they should advertise on the radio, and I got this incredulous look of who listens to the radio anymore. I mean, you've got Spotify and Pandora, and I'm not, no endorsement intended or implied.
Shoot.
Uh, is it, and I'm like, well, this is a relatively small town. People listen to the radio because they want to know what's going on this weekend. So it is really an active market. And, you know, at a plumbing company, they generated almost 60% of their business when I got them to start tracking KPIs. They were generating 60% of their business from the yellow pages.
Hmm.
You heard me right. the yellow pages because 60% of their client base were elderly people.
Yep.
And that's still how they do business. When they want a plumber, they look in the phone book. It's a thing, people. It's called a phone book. It's actually printed on paper.
I was just thinking, I don't know if I have one, but I know some of the yellow page ad programs, digital. I know some of the channels that have worked very well for us. Some of the Yahoo placements. I mean, there's a variety of sites that you'll get excellent engagement and potentially performance from reaching your audience if you understand where they are and how they engage and going to those spots. And, speaking about, the plumbing client and the key performance indicators they were looking to hit. I always say you can only measure with numbers. Need to have some performance goals, some benchmarks that you're playing for. And if you don't hit them, because they could be confronting, there could be, some fear associated, but you need to have the what so and be able to determine, hey, this is working, this isn't. We put it in the form of algorithms, impressions, clicks, conversions, how many times a piece of content or an ad's been seen, how much traffic it's driving to an offering page, how many conversions it's producing. We could see where performance is falling off or where it's overproducing and where we need to scale into. But without mapping it out, without determining, hey, this is going to be the right approach for these audiences, you're kind of shooting in the dark.
Yeah, no, and it's really interesting when I talk about using the muscle above your neck, and being good with your head. Is that I've run into a lot of clients that they can't spell KPI. They've never heard of it before. They don't understand what it is. Um, and going backtracking just a little bit, people with flip phones in their 70s have money.
Yes.
Don't overlook those people. It depends. You're down in the LA area, so it's a
Yep.
little bit fast-paced environment. And it's one of the reasons that I went into business coaching up here in Montana, is that business is conducted differently in the Rocky Mountain West and the Western, all the plain states, in the rural areas, and so it's a different problem set than the paradigms that we have on LinkedIn and in Facebook and digital marketing. The comment about people with flip phones have money, and landlines. Oh my gosh, how many people still have landlines in LA? I don't know. Um, but
Not many.
yeah, to your point, finding and analyzing, and that's probably one of the first steps for business growth model is where is where do my clients live, and identifying that, and then you can peel a couple layers off the onion and go, what is resonating with them, and through what platforms. And that's really where you get into the master class. That's what you do, right?
Yep. And, we have assumptions going in, but we need the data to show us what's working. So, whether it's radio, terrestrial, digital, whether it's print, maybe it's field marketing that has out of home advertising incorporated into it. We look at everything as a test, need to be able to see the analytics, track somehow, even if it's tougher with some of the offline placements, and optimize towards what's working best over time. But I'm constantly surprised. I mean, what works well for one group, even in the same industry as another, may be drastically different. So, being able to see what's resonating with your target audiences, and once you're able to crack the code, depending on the channel and the scalability of it, you can do a lot more of what's physically driving for you.
Yeah, and I love the word optimize,
Mhm.
and I would stress and emphasize that optimize is not something you do once a year.
Right.
It's something you do once a month, once every 2 weeks. How often you haven't. when are you getting that data? And I love the term data-driven decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, is to use the data to make a decision. Don't get stuck in analysis paralysis, as I call it. You know, people look at KPIs and KRAs and it's like, oh, I don't know what to do with this. And I'm like, oh, well, it sucks. So maybe we ought to try something different, right?
Pivot.
Um, and pivot, and that's the optimization part is it is making those and there's risk, you know. How do you what's your risk tolerance and what are the moves that you're going to do in that pivot? What's going to cost you versus maybe it's a no cost. I don't know.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And there's aggressive, there's conservative approaches. Was on a podcast recently, founders with the shoestring budget. There are ways to do things, growth hacking. First, I have to have a growth model, but growth hacking to be able to get there quicker and without, large scale advertising campaigns or any paid advertising at all for that matter. But still have to determine, hey, what are my conversion rates? How many people are going to get from one stage to the next? How do I get enough people, enough prospects, enough awareness at the top so that I'm able to substantiate the amount of results that I need to hit the goals?
Yeah, and man, it's so I have the advantage or disadvantage or whatever of working across a lot of different um, business acumen. You know, we've talked about the trades a little bit, but then you talk about somebody that's in retail um, or something like that. It's a totally different problem set when you start talking about scalability and growth um, of you know they're a service provider or a goods provider. Um, does the brand that they're carrying sell itself? Does it have backing behind it? How do you leverage those other things? And more importantly, how do you leverage your existing customers? Because I think that's a tremendously underutilized element of growth models is people don't leverage their existing clientele. They bought from you once. If they didn't buy from you twice, you need to look at that. And if they're buying from you twice, why didn't they bring a friend?
Right. Oh, yeah. Peer to peer marketing is the ultimate. I can't tell you how many products I have in my house that were recommended to me by my brother, a friend, a golf buddy, someone at work, someone I met on a call, what have you. That third party validation really goes a long way. I mean, when talking digital, people don't believe what they see on the internet. The more social proof, the better. The more publisher logos, as featured by, the more testimonials, the more reviews given the vertical, the more confidence a prospect will have in what you do. And if you can create content that stimulates peer-to-peer marketing, as well as high authority links, coverage from sites, brands, pages with large audiences and that are authoritative in their given space, you're going to see all types of organic traffic coming through. We work on a lot of investor marketing campaigns, and they say 80% of the investments are first degree and second degree networks of the founding team. So bringing in their friends, their family, their customers, their networks to invest, but not just that, to share and to get more people aware, excited about the deal. They can be the top brokers, if you will, not in a literal sense, but top promoters and getting traffic that converts at a high level there. And that says something. Cold traffic that gets there thereafter sees that movement. It's very forward facing. This is how much has been raised. This is how many investors. If we're looking at, let's say, an investment crowdfunding campaign, and if it appears to have a line around the block, social dynamics at play, it's going to likely have an effect on how the offering is perceived, how people move forward. Without it, it can appear more like an empty restaurant, and that sensation can dramatically affect the response.
Yeah, and I mean, wow, the buyer's journey and the psychology behind that, um, people will definitely tend to follow the herd. It statistically, all
Yes,
right.
rule of thumb.
And so leveraging a referral network,
Yeah,
and this is where I see a ton of potential for businesses that I work with, is they're not leveraging that referral network. They're not nurturing their past customers, their family, their friends, people that are outside the industry, and it doesn't cost you anything. Just have a conversation, you know. Um, Tell people to check it out, but people will follow the crowd. I mean, look at the nightclub. You know, if I'm not a I don't follow Hollywood stars and stuff like that,
sure.
but all the buzz, you know, for a long time was what nightclubs were certain celebrities going to in Las Vegas and LA, and everybody wanted to be there, so they had a line around the block. Um, it's that kind of referral and branding that that can really make a difference.
And sometimes just asking for it. You know, those nightclub owners, hey, can I take a picture of you? Can I promote it? We're sitting you up on this table. Would you mind doing a post? I mean, you told us how great of a time you're having. You want to make it easy for that customer, that client to share with others. On the B2B side, for our business, for the agency, it was instrumental to build good referral partnerships. If someone gets to our site and says, all right, marketing agencies, they get a bad rap. I don't know if these are guys. I'm not sure. They may not ever even get in contact with us. If a trusted source, their lawyer, their accountant, people they work with that are setting up their campaign, their business, their capital raise, whatever it may be, says, hey, you should really speak to DNA. Yeah, you should talk to Jason. It's a completely different conversation. So, for a while, it was a big initiative for us of how do we reach out to groups that are currently working with our target audiences. How do we build a rapport? How do we show them our case studies, our abilities? How do we build programs that are maybe custom to their needs so that they can promote this to their clientele? And if we're getting a
Yeah,
few intros a month, some groups it's intros daily. It means the world to our business. And I know many B2B operators fall into the same category where it all comes down to their referral network, building it out, making it easy for them to promote to their not just clientele, but their networks, their prospects. It's what sets up the top groups. Everyone else is just trying to go client direct, and this applies to B2C as well. I mean, you want that mind share. You want people sharing what you're doing. Eat at a great restaurant. Hey, I talked to the owner. He said, tell my friends. He said, bring my team in. We'll have a party, do some type of office party. That was presented from the business owner so that it's easy for others to share.
yeah. I mean, it's the referral it's free. Number one, it doesn't cost you anything. But I use the analogy when people don't understand it. Have you ever walked into McDonald's and somebody handed you a cheeseburger? No,
Always that order.
you have to order it. You have to ask for it. And so, I mean, if you're confident in your brand, you're confident in your business, don't be afraid to ask people.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you know somebody, they probably know, like, and trust you. Those are some of the three magic ingredients. And if they know, like, and trust you, and you say, it's this simple. Hey, do you know anybody who I might be able to help out or would benefit from what I offer. That didn't cost me anything.
Yep.
That's really, really easy. So building your referral network and nurturing your referral network, keeping yourself top of mind with those people, um, is another incredible thing, and incredibly powerful tool that doesn't cost you anything.
Even if it does, even if there's referral fees, which can be common business to business, it's well worth it. You look at acquisition
Yeah.
cost for new customers, new clients. Like you said, the lifetime value, going back to clients, going back to customers, if they become more valuable to you over time, whether that's revenue or you're growing your user base and they're super users, whatever it may be, going back to them, I mean, it can be the largest asset, and doesn't necessarily even show up in your books in some cases, but the audience you have, I mean, it's the first question I ask a prospective client is, how large is your audience? How many people can you email tomorrow? How many people are in your social audience? Can you digitally touch? It is a predictor of how much they can do and early on. And it's not a deterrent either. If they don't have an audience, it just means, hey, we need to put more effort early stage in that audience building, and that's going to be powerful for you. That's going to continue to deliver because of that social sharing, because of the referrals, because of all the things they can do to drive your numbers that much further.
Yeah, and it's important to be a good referral partner in return.
Yes.
Uh, you you're the likelihood that somebody is going to refer you, um, increases dramatically if you've referred them.
Yep.
You drop a warm lead in somebody's lap and they have a good experience. Um, that referral partner is now automatically a strategic partner
Yep.
in helping you, um, when they run across somebody who might engage your service. And so I think that's incredible. And I use it out here in the rural areas. I say, out here, especially with 7 inches of fallen snow and sub-zero temperatures, you got to cooperate to graduate. And so everybody goes into business thinking, oh, it's super competitive and it's dog eat dog. Man, find your blue ocean. If, for those of you who may not have read that book, um, find that blue ocean and find people that can help get you into those blue oceans so that you're not swimming with the competition all the time. Find those people that you're not connecting with through different means. Be imaginative, think outside the box.
Thinking outside the box, first understanding the box, do the right competitor audits. What are other brands in my space doing to bring on business? And then what aspects of that do I want to recreate? Which channels, which types of messaging, perhaps? And then, like you said, be creative. What are they not doing? What's representative of my brand in a positive way that I can try out? And it's how I've seen some of the top performers grow.
Yeah, and I go back and forth, and it really is kind of client and industry specific. Of you know, I do set aside a full week to 2 weeks to go, okay, let's analyze the competition. Okay, that's great. We that helps us be more self-aware of where we sit, within the environment. But I try not to focus too much on the competition, and I almost encourage people to go, are they really a direct competitor, or I mean, if you're talking about, Android versus Apple iPhones, yeah, they're obviously a direct competitor. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat that one. But how can those potentially be, allies? How can somebody that you perceive as competition, they may not actually be a competitor. It's like a law firm. You have a law firm that are very specialized, but they lack a skill set in a certain type of law. I try and encourage them, find a law firm that is good in these areas and work up a strategic alliance to cross refer people. You're highly skilled in this element of law. They're highly skilled in that element of law. You're not going to get the client anyway. I mean, if you don't know anything about environmental litigation and they don't know anything about divorce litigation, it kind of dovetails that you can cross refer people to each other. So if you get somebody that's engaging in it, because at the end of the day, it's about having a conversation. And once you have a conversation with a prospective client, it's up to you to close the deal. But the problem that most people are trying to solve with marketing in general is just having that conversation in the first place with a prospect.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I could ask you questions all day. Want to talk about a few things that you may be implementing as part of your systems, as part of your strategy. What recommendations would you have for founders that are listening in that they could apply towards their own growth? What tests? I look at this as a series of tests, again, till the analytics are showing that it's working. Would you encourage them to apply towards their own strategy?
Well, for people that aren't familiar with the sigmoid curve, I'll make a reference back to that, which is the founder's trap.
Okay.
So you have a business, you get a business that gets started off and it's going and it's highly successful. And maybe you've got 2 to 20 employees and the owner hasn't had a vacation in 10 years or something like that. And it goes back, you'll hear it over and over again. If the success of the business is dependent on the owner, it's not scalable.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that goes back to what we talked about in the first 5 minutes about the leadership and growing your replacement.
Yes.
If you really, and if you want to get ahead of the sigmoid curve, is that you should be growing that team and treating that team well all the way up the growth scale so that, the other cliche term, I don't know whether branded as cliche is how much time do you spend working on your business as opposed to in your business or for your business, right? And that's people stuck in the founder's trap of, you know, I think we saw it with some of the most high profile CEOs out there. You saw it with Gates, you saw it with Jobs. Um, you see it maybe potentially with Bezos and Musk. Is at what point do you need to step away from being the CEO to be back in that creative space and running the business? I mean, look what Elon Musk has done. I mean, he starts a project, he builds stuff, and then he steps away, and other people are running it. If you think
Yep.
that guy's doing everything that he's got going on single handedly, no, that's not how that works. He found a lot of people that are smarter than him in areas that he's not super smart in. And that's probably the big thing is don't be afraid to outsource stuff that you're not good at. And I had one client that I asked him, he was having a cash flow problem. I said, well, what are you sitting on for AR, accounts receivable? He's like, like 72,000. I said, why? Why are you sitting on $72,000 worth of accounts receivable?
Yeah.
Like, I don't have time to invoice. What?
I've
There are people that will do that for you and they'll do it for you at a lot less money. I mean, if you're trying to pay yourself $50 an hour, why can't you pay somebody $15 an hour to do the invoicing and pay everybody's bills? It's not that hard.
and free up time for yourself to do other things. It could be
Yeah.
those creative, ideation sessions, working on the
Well, it's the
product,
healthy balance. I mean, your kid's
partnerships.
not going to have another 9-year-old piano recital.
Yeah.
That it's not going to happen again. Those are one-time events. You can't afford to miss those.
You got to have that balance. And even just talking about the business side of things, I find the more I remove myself from our workflows, from our standard operating procedures, the more efficient we are. I can bottleneck, even though I may be very good at certain aspects. If I'm able to train my team, which takes time, they're only going to get good
Yeah.
with experience. We're able to take on that much more. I'm training that mid-level management. They're training the people underneath them, and we're able to have that ascendance of everybody and take on a lot more, be that much more impactful for our given vertical. What about when it's not working? What about, hey, I've built these teams. My accounting's covered over here. My account management. Here are the technicians, those actually working on it. I could disappear for a week, 2 weeks, then get right back into it and figure out how I'm communicating, how I'm managing each of those moving pieces, but I'm still not hitting the goals. How do you recommend founders optimize? What are the best approaches towards improvement?
Um, you can go back and you can look at efficiencies. I mean, and you can dump Lean Six Sigma techniques on things all day long, and sometimes I would lean more, and especially what you were talking about within your own organization about training, the time that you're investing. I use that word deliberately, that you are
Good one.
investing your time um, into middle management and encouraging middle management to do the same for the people that are working for them. So the word that jumped into my head when you were talking about that was culture. Is the culture of the organization on par with your vision as the founder, as the owner? Right? Okay, I want to grow. I see this thing being 10x in
Mm-hmm.
2 years. Okay. Um, well, I'll throw the buzzword out there. If you're the guy on the floor or sitting behind the computer with them, what's in it for me? So back to communication and back to culture. How does me busting my butt um, to make this guy in the corner office a bucket of money going to help me? And so it's communicating the vision and having the culture within the organization that they believe in what you're doing too. They they don't just it's not just a sign on the wall. It's not just something in a signature block. Um, they believe it and they're behind it the same way that the founder is. And so culture and gosh, we could go on a whole other tangent about intentional and accidental culture,
Mm-hmm.
but I'll say one thing about intentional culture. It's really great. If you walk into a Chick-fil-A, no endorsement intended or implied, um, what what do they say after they take your order? My pleasure.
Correct.
Everything. They walk in, they put that hat on, they forget that the dog uh, went to the bathroom on the floor, they forget that they spilled coffee in the car, all of that. They're riding for the brand. When they go and put that hat on and they get behind that counter, they're working for the brand. You go to a high-end restaurant, doesn't matter how bad the day was. Your wait staff, your maitre d, um, they are working for the brand of the restaurant. You go to a high-end hotel, it's the same thing. It doesn't matter how bad their personal problems were, they left them at the door. That's intentional culture. Um, and it's setting standards and giving people a level of expectation of what their performance is, but also what the reward is. And that and that's really doing injustice in 90 seconds to culture, right? But you have to set it as a founder and as a CEO. You have to set, establish, and nurture the culture of your organization every day.
Absolutely. You have to incentivize your team. You have to keep them motivated, whether it's on that vision for their personal, growth, and including perhaps monetary aspects of that. What about when you get it all dialed? How about scaling? So, hey, I've been able to build this system that I could work on. I don't have to work within. I can, but it's moving without me. I'm able to then navigate the seas and determine where we're going as an organization. Where am I driving this ship? What are the keys to scale? Any tips? Any examples? I know that's what we're all playing for.
Um, what I think it comes into the strategic planning process. If that's been done, you should have that idea in your head. I find it very rare that people turn around and go, well, we had all this stuff written down. We accomplished everything that we set out to do. If that's the case, you need to put a few more steps on the staircase and imagine what it can be. And honestly, sometimes it means um, looking at where you're and it depends on what's driving you. If profit is the only thing driving you, then you focus on your high value added operations and maybe even slim down your lesser valued. If you're providing a service that you're passionate about, then you look at expanding that. But you get into a point on growth where you're like, okay, we've kind of hit the goals that we set for ourselves. Well, now innovate. Now think like a child, right? Think a little bit about what what could we do next? I mean, if I had you give a 5-year old a cardboard box and a set of scissors, they're going to turn it into a cabin, a, a ferry house, a rocket ship, a time machine. Don't be afraid to sit down and brainstorm and innovate and think about, okay, so if we're really good at this, what else could we be good at as well? And what do we expand into? And is it a blue ocean or a red ocean?
Well said. I could see the type of impact you have on founders, and while you're pushing happy people, higher profits, healthy balance, I can get the role you're able to play in these organizations and their growth accordingly. You give good analogies. It's easy to break down. You can make complex concepts seem very easy and straightforward. One step after another. This is what we do.
I was just a fighter pilot. I mean, give a monkey a banana, throw the switch. Give a monkey another banana, he throws another switch, right? Yeah, I wish it was that easy, but
That's one way to put it. I may quote you on that. But Jeff, I have really had a pleasure speaking with you today. Anyone who's tuned in right now, if they'd like to learn more, where are the best places for them to find your content, perhaps get in contact, and any final words of wisdom you want to leave them with today?
um, to find me, coachjeff.biz, and Jeff Carlton dash coach on YouTube. You can find me on LinkedIn. Love making new connections on LinkedIn, um, especially contacts on LinkedIn that aren't trying to sell me more marketing. But I guess I guess my parting shot was be bold. Don't be afraid to be at calculated risk, and don't be afraid to think like a 7-year old, 9-year old again. I mean, if you there was a great post I saw. I can't remember which platform the other day. It was a picture of a little kid looking worried, and the caption was, "What if I fail?" That is totally the wrong mindset. if I had one word of encouragement for any aspiring entrepreneur or anybody struggling is imagine what's going to look like if I succeed.
Yep.
And and then put that firmly in your head and how will come to you. Figure out what it is you want it to look like in the end, and then how will come to you. You just got to be resolute in your commitment to yourself and your vision.
I love that. It's the half empty versus half full, right? It's all about that perspective
Yeah,
and
the class is too
echo.
big in that case. That's how I look at it.
Never big enough. Well, want to echo that, Jeff, and definitely would take Jeff up on that invitation. Everybody connect with him on LinkedIn, check out the site. Jeff, can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Really, really got a lot out of the discussion today. Took a whole page of notes myself and going to be sharing with the team. Thanks again for making time.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity, and please, anybody do reach out. If nothing else, I love just having I love hearing people's stories and having the conversation. So I welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with any of your listeners.
Do it. If you're listening right now, get in touch. Well, thank you, Jeff. Thanks again. And thank you, everyone. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care.